This is the Dover Download Podcast. My name is Christopher Parker, and for the past 25 years, I've had the pleasure of working with, learning from, and talking to a variety of volunteer, staff, and community members. This podcast explores conversations, activities, and a variety of policies and programs which exist here in Dover to improve the community in one way or another. One of the things that makes Dover a vibrant place is that we have a lot of community events and community opportunity for people to get engaged here in Dover. A lot of those events need permits. And today we're going to cover how someone might go about getting those permits, and we're going to correct the fallacy that at least I had, that those permits are organized through the city clerk's office. We're joined today by Lieutenant Marn Spidell, who's our traffic coordinator from the police department, and Kelly Tidball, who's with the police records unit. Marn, you've been here before, so welcome back.
Thank you.
Kelly, it's a first-timer, so welcome.
Thank you.
So, am I right? It's a new change to have the Records Bureau, the police department organizing and administering these permits and activity logs?
That's right. It's a fairly new change that we've made administratively with city operations, where most of these applications were filed with the city clerk's office and then set up either for the city council agenda or for other in-house review. We've streamlined a lot of that permitting, and it's now all essentially done electronic. And then the police department has assumed the role of being the primary reviewer at various levels for getting the permits through, making sure applicants meet all of their conditions, provide any other documentation that they need. But yeah, it's a fairly new change, probably within the last 6 to 8 months that we've started to apply.
Yeah, I was going to say roughly a year.
And is this using the permit portal that's been created, that the land use permits and the building permits go through as well?
Yeah, it's one single portal. I think if you were to do a search on the term permits.dover.nh.gov,
That's exactly
that'll
it.
be a clearinghouse, and that'll get you in for anything from health licensing to land use and technical review, document submission to permitting. And that permits is essentially what a lot of the police department deals with.
So which ones are we talking about specifically? Are we talking about if I want to hold an event at City Hall? Are we talking about I want to hold a parade or a block party? Are there more?
There
Above.
there are quite a few types. So the parade, as is classified both by statutory definition and in our ordinances, that might include a traditional parade, such as the holiday parade or an event that Dover 400 had as a celebration. It might also include a road race because it technically falls under the same category. Anytime that you occupy public streets in any other manner that the typical rules of the road have to be disregarded, then you need to get a permit for that. So let's take a typical road race. You get hundreds of people that are going to run down the middle of Central Avenue as part of a 5K. The law normally doesn't allow them to do that. So a permit gives them the authority to do that and gives the police department the authority under non-emergency circumstances to create road closures and set up detours, traffic detours and whatnot to allow the event to happen as safely as possible.
So in that regard, the permit is really to have the police department create a safe environment for the activity to occur.
Essentially it is, yes. It also gives us an opportunity to look at it professionally to say, is this type of an event going to work? Are the traffic implications associated with your event going to be something that we can manage, or would it cause so much of a disruption that it's just not manageable? That's where the police department's administrative review comes in, and then we end up conveying an opinion to the licensing board. Ultimately, the licensing board and or the city council has the final authority on whether or not a permit gets issued.
Kelly, what are some other permits that you're administering?
We have simpler event permits. So if somebody wanted to do, say, a garage sale for their entire neighborhood, it's something that they would need a permit for. Individual ones, you wouldn't, but we also do any type of smaller events like peddler permits, dance and entertainment licenses. We do taxi permits.
Block parties.
Block parties, raffles, that's right.
Okay.
So if you were to hold a raffle, dance and entertainment licenses are essentially just restaurants.
Yep.
Road toll sort of falls under the category of raffle and tag, but it's a little bit
Yep.
different. Road toll is essentially your
Like the boots, right?
soliciting donations in a public place.
Yeah.
The most popular place to have those is the intersection of Central Avenue and Oak Street. And there are several organizations that do them annually or even a couple of times annually. The
fire
Food Drive Fire Department. But those are called road tolls. So there are certain criteria that we require an applicant to complete in order to safely have it. A lot of it's behind the scenes stuff, but that's where our administrative review comes in. Kelly is pretty much in charge of the first look at every application that comes in, and she does quite a bit of work talking to the applicants, getting clarification for what it is they mean, what it is they need, and frankly, it's probably most helpful if people were to reach out to the police department, and they'll either get Kelly or in some cases they'll get me to bounce ideas off of before they even begin the application process. Describe what you're trying to do, what type of event,
Right.
and then we'll see is it the type of thing that you do need a permit for or not.
And odds are we've seen a similar enough event in the past that you can guide them and saying this is what's worked or this is what we would have improved upon had we been asked.
True.
I have to think, Marn, that you and I have been around the block a few times. And I remember sitting through council meetings when the council was actually doing the sign-offs on the block parties and the raffles and the parades. Mm-hmm. The process that we've implemented now with Kelly doing the first look and then ultimately the sign-offs being done more or less administratively, the turnaround time has to be improved for the actual event holder and coordinator.
I think that's true. I think we can, in many cases, depending on the availability of the licensing board, we can turn around a permit application in less than a week, where it used to rely quite heavily on the council agenda getting set up through the clerk's office to have the council vote on it in a public meeting. So the council has now vested that authority essentially to the licensing board. And then the licensing board basically through, I think, the city manager's report, reports back to the council on a periodic basis on how many of what type of permit have been issued. There's always that fallback for the city council to review permits if it's something that might have been denied, which is somewhat rare, but it does happen.
Sure.
And someone wants someone else to hear it again for like a rehearing. But yes, that process has changed. It's become much more streamlined. So in that respect, I think the process has improved.
In short of the inclusion in the manager's report, which is a form of outreach, but it's really meant to inform the council of what's going on, it's up to the individual event coordinator or the event organizer to actually promote and publicize their events once they've obtained the permits, correct? We don't then create an event calendar. It's geared towards the regulatory side of things, not the promotional side.
That's right. We really we don't have the resources to participate in the marketing aspect of it. We do serve a crucial role in cross-checking against other events that have been scheduled. It's helpful to have one single clearinghouse to be sure that this event that you're proposing isn't going to directly conflict with another event, particularly if it's a downtown event.
Right.
So I think the first step for a lot of applicants, if they're proposing an event, for instance, at Henry Law Park, because Henry Law Park is probably our most heavily used. It's a central location. It's got proximate parking, and it's got a lot of green space. So if someone wanted to hold an event at Henry Law Park, their first step would be to contact the recreation department and get their event on the calendar. So Henry Law Park's a public park. Anyone can come or go at any point. But if you want to set up an event where you're having a concert or you're maybe charging admission, that does require a permit. But first and foremost, it requires making sure that your event doesn't conflict with some other scheduled event. And that's where the recreation calendar comes in. And then the next step is to begin the permitting process.
So Kelly, if someone wants to take advantage of Marn's suggestion of reaching out ahead of time and getting some direction,
They could reach me at my direct line. It's 603-516-6133. And backing off what Marn said, it would be best to reach out to the police department first, just in case the organizer of an event has already filed a permit, and it would then negate their need to file a peddler permit, per se. We could then guide them to either the organizer or let them know whether or not it's even necessary.
I know Maren just said, on average, you're able to turn things around within a week, and recognizing there's scheduling and there's other. How far in advance do you suggest someone reach out if they're thinking about holding an event? If someone wants to hold an event next week, it's probably too late, but is it too early if I'm thinking about Christmas time?
No, not
On
at all.
outdoor, really, the larger the event,
The
the more
earlier.
time you should build in.
So it's a complexity.
Because it goes to how many other criteria, and I'm using the word criteria, but it's really things that the city would require that you have. And let me give you a couple of examples. The Chamber of Commerce has Apple Harvest Day every year. For all intents and purposes, that's a block party permit.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. They apply for and receive a block party permit to occupy much of downtown, and they lay out the space, and every year they tweak it a little bit based on how many vendors they anticipate participating, but they basically get the authority to take over those city streets by that permit. That falls under the statutory exception for a street fair. So with it being a street fair, all of those other participating vendors don't have to apply to the city of Dover to get a peddler permit or a vendor permit specific to that day, because it's all under one umbrella of the block party permit. So it really helps streamline that process. But you're talking about a committee of volunteers that meets for months, sometimes a year ahead of time, to do all of the bells and whistles that go into setting up such a large-scale event. You're talking about trash collection and disposal. You're talking about scheduling the police department to set up traffic detours. You name it, there's quite a bit that goes into it.
I would presume, though, that umbrella doesn't obviate someone from needing a health license if they're serving food.
You're absolutely right. That's correct. That's
It's a different aspect to it.
Anything that's being sold for human consumption does require a health license. So that portal, again, gives you an avenue to that health license, but it's handled through the health inspector's office.
Well, I appreciate you both coming in. Is there anything you think the listener should know that we haven't covered yet?
I think maybe just to reiterate that it's best to reach out. You actually can get Kelly's office if you call the non-emergency 742-4646 number. If you ask to speak to someone in the records division regarding whether you need a permit, they'll connect you through, and if Kelly's not at her desk, you may get someone else in records, or you may get her voicemail. But again, it's the scale of it, whether or not you even need a permit. Just because you're having an event at Henry Law Park doesn't necessarily mean that you need a permit from the city. Are you occupying any parking spaces? Do you need to reserve any parking spaces? In many cases, musicians, bands need to offload equipment to get to the Henry Law Park stage. Well, we need to block those parking spaces ahead of time to make sure that they're clear for when they arrive. Well, that has to be done through a block party permit. But if you didn't need that, then you might not need a permit. So really, it's just reaching out ahead of time, discussing it with us, either Kelly or myself, and then we can kind of guide you, point you in the right direction.
So if I'm just going to busk with my guitar, no permit. If I'm going to bring my band, permit. And if you don't have earplugs, don't come down if I'm busking.
Okay.
Great. Well, I appreciate you both coming in, and I appreciate the information. I think it's really helpful for the listener to know. We have, as I said earlier, we have a lot of events going on in Dover, and it's an interesting process. Have a great day.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As well.
Dover has a wealth of history in its over 400 years of existence. Coming up, Mike Gillis is going to share some of that history with us.
This week in 1925, the skies over Dover witnessed an unprecedented event as M&M Bakeries made history with the first aerial delivery of fresh bread in New England, and possibly, as they claimed, the world. In a feat of logistical brilliance, plane covered the 12 miles from Dover to Portsmouth in just 7 minutes and 12 seconds, ensuring that the extra loaves requested were delivered within a mere 25 minutes. This innovative approach highlighted M&M Bakeries' commitment to freshness and customer satisfaction, setting a new standard in the baking industry. M&M Bakeries, founded by Patrick McManus in the early 1920s, quickly became a cornerstone of the Dover community. Initially operating from a building on Central Avenue, the business expanded in 1927 to a new factory on 3rd Street, which is now the site of the June Cork Pub. M&M was renowned for its big butter crust loaf, which was a staple in households across New England. Their fleet of trucks ensured daily deliveries, reaching as far as Newburyport, Massachusetts, and South Portland, Maine. The bakery's innovation wasn't limited to delivery methods. M&M Bakeries was an early adopter of modern baking techniques and distribution strategies, which helped solidify its reputation as a leader in the industry. Their ability to adapt and grow allowed them to serve a wide region, making their products a household name. However, not all was smooth sailing for M&M Bakeries. In 1941, the company faced significant labor challenges when the Bakery and Confectionery Workers International Union sought recognition as the exclusive bargaining representative for the company's employees. The union filed a petition with the National Labor Relations Board on August 9, 1941, citing a question affecting commerce and requesting an investigation and certification of representatives. The core of the dispute centered on the company's refusal to recognize the union until it was certified by the NLRB. Following a hearing on September 3, 1941, the NLRB directed an election to be held among the inside production employees and working foremen, excluding office and supervisory employees. The decision underscored the importance of employee representation and the right to collective bargaining. The board found that the question concerning representation had substantial relation to trade and commerce, and that resolving it through an election was necessary to prevent labor disputes from burdening and obstructing commerce. M&M Bakeries did eventually resolve its labor issues and continued to thrive until finally closing up shop in 1961.
Thanks for listening to the Dover Download this week. If you like what you heard, subscribe through your favorite podcast aggregator. And if you have something you want to hear a topic on, let us know. Finally, this is just one of the many ways we share information about the city of Dover. You can subscribe to the Dover Download's email newsletter every week or other newsletters that we have by going to the City of Dover homepage, www.dover.nh.gov. Have a great week.